Reparations for Haiti. It's almost 200 years since France, as they say, did a number on Haiti, and they haven't really recovered from since that time to now. Well, without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Shabaka Kambon and Dr. Fergus, as well as Renee. Good afternoon or good evening to all of you.
Hi, good evening, Brother Ruskin. Good evening, and good evening to all the listeners on all our frequencies, 91.1 FM, Facebook, and YouTube. Greeting my brother Shabaka.
Good night to you, Dr. Fergus. Good to see you again on another edition of Indaba. We start tonight with our updates on Afra, and I'm really looking forward to that. This is the 15-year project of the Emancipation Support Committee to address some of the challenges emanating from the education system in the so-called marginal or hotspot communities on the East-West corridor. We're going to get all those details now from Dr. Asha Kambon. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm sure our listeners are too. And of course, later in tonight's program, we have Sister Kandis Sebro, and she's just back, I understand, from Brazil. She's trilingual. She's the she's been ubiquitous across progressive causes of late, and she'll be telling us about the latest developments in terms of the Caribbean Assembly, People's Assembly, and of course they are dealing with Haiti, and they have an initiative that they want all of us to participate in tomorrow morning. They have taken an initiative to petition France in a particular way, I mean a historic manner, and they want us, the listeners on radio, and those who are tuned in online, to join them tomorrow morning at an important historic event. So we're going to hear all about that tonight on Indaba. Looking forward to it. Where do we begin, Dr. Fergus? Is it, Doctor? We have Kadija. Yes, there she is. Hi, Kadija.
Good evening, Shabaka. Good evening, Dr. Fergus.
Good evening and welcome, Kadija.
Kadija, I understand you have an update for us.
Yes, so I am giving an update on the, what you call the ESC corner on Indaba. Okay, so what we have coming up is actually 3 events. And time is just flying. Can you believe we are in the second quarter of the year? Like just yesterday was January, now we're in April. And we are preparing for Pan-African Festival commemorating Emancipation 2025. And I know a lot of persons still have in their heads that, we just wake up one day and we just have this huge parade from the promenade to the savannah. But we actually have work being done in the back end to make that happen. So what we have first coming up is the spoken word, the regional spoken word competition for primary schools. And this segment will end for us the national spoken word competition, which started in September with Republic Bank through their Power to Make a Difference program as our sponsor. So invitation letters has been sent out. Schools are registering. If teachers, principal, parents are hearing this for the first time, there is still time. We'll put information on our Facebook page. Click the link and you can register. It does not take much for your children to become involved. Just brave 7 to 11-year-olds who want to be a part of the competition. And also parents and teachers who want to embark on that journey. And it's a journey of growth, because we see many children, they come in and they're shy, but at the end of it, they find their voice. And I mean, it's amazing just sitting and watching these children recite poems, calypsos. And even though you may hear calypso over and over, but watching a child put their emotions into it and just recite a calypso, it's amazing. Right, so we have the orientation on May the 2nd. If anyone wants information, you can reach out to us. You can also message or call 292-7288. Following that, we have the launch of the Pan-African Festival commemorating Emancipation 2025. It's the same as Emancipation. The most persons ask if it's two different festivals. No, it's the same. We have just coined the Emancipation Celebration Pan-African Festival. And this happens on May the 25th, a very important day for persons of African descent. If you're not sure, go on Google, learn some history. They're very important day for everyone in African diaspora. And after that, we have, if not the best Afrocentric fashion show in the Caribbean, coordinated by Richard Young. I mean, it's a fashion show like no other. This year is EWA Africa 25 Conscious Threads, and we are looking at telling our story through clothing. 10-hour surgery clothes that we wear, because we still have that notion that, we are wearing costumes. We only do so for emancipation time, which is not true. Now you're seeing even young persons, students wearing African clothing to their graduation balls. You're seeing persons getting married in African clothes. Persons are wearing it throughout the year. We have soca artists, entertainers also wearing African clothing. So we are bridging that gap every year, slowly but surely, but we are pulling that bridge together, for persons to stand tall, stand proud in their Africanness. And of course, at the fashion show, thanks to Caribbean Airlines, we will be giving away a round-trip ticket to any Caribbean Airlines destination. Once you purchase your ticket before Mother's Day, tickets come available at the end of April. So give mommy that wonderful gift for Mother's Day like no other. A very unique gift from Caribbean Airlines and the Emancipation Support Committee. Purchase your tickets before Mother's Day. General tickets are $300 and special reserve tickets are $350.
Yeah, and of course, if you're going to Miami, don't take your phone if you've been bad talking the President of the United States of America. All right. No, but Kadija, you raised a very interesting point there. The question of the importance of African Liberation Day. That's May 25th.
May 25th, yes.
Yeah, and I think this is a good opportunity for us to just segue for 1 minute here. There is a conversation happening within the African world, the Pan-African world, a contest, so to speak, between the notion of an African Liberation Day and an Africa Day. I'm sure you're familiar with that discourse. Perhaps
Yes.
we get Dr. Fergus involved, and where do we stand on that debate here in the Emancipation Support Committee? Are we gonna go with Africa Day? Or are we gonna stick to African Liberation Day? Dr. Fergus, join us on this one.
Well, it's a policy of the ESC, so I can't speak for the ESC on that. Definitely, if you ask me what I feel about it, it's a different thing. There are different perspectives, of course. If you live on the continent, I think there's justification for saying Africa Day. But if you live in the diaspora, I think there is justification for African Liberation Day. The liberation struggle continues.
Yeah.
Now, we might say the same thing applies to the continent, but you have to look at it from different countries' perspective, because all of them do not subscribe to the same terminology. There are different terminologies, and some countries have their own Africa Day on a different day. South Africa, for example, celebrate on a different day. So it depends on the perspective that you're coming from, and I think it's important that ESC declares what it prefers and that we accept that. We have to accept that.
I just want to wade in here. I'm a little disappointed by the move from on the continent to remove the idea of liberation, because the word liberation speaks to the history of the continent, that colonial past. The commemoration has a particular type of substance, and you know, and that gives a particular ethos to what would happen on the 25th. When you remove the word liberation from that conversation, you know, it becomes you know, for me, a less substantial kind of commemoration. Also, I don't know what you're commemorating really. It could be celebrating culture and the arts and so on, but it's a very different thing. And so I applaud
Yeah,
that.
but Shabaka, the point is for the Africans, the struggle is over. And it is from that perspective they celebrate Africa rather than the struggle itself. So I understand that. I understand your thinking on that particular issue as well. But if people believe that the struggle is over, the liberation struggle is over, and now we must celebrate the continent, we must celebrate ourselves, I don't see why we should have a problem with that.
Well, when I look at the rest of the world, you know, you take, you know, all kinds of, you just take the Jews, for example. The Holocaust is over, but they commemorate the event. And it's a way to ensure that, to sort of orient their people in such a way that they don't ever face a similar kind of historic atrocities in the future. And you see this all across the developed world. That's quite normal for people to commemorate, you know, difficult times, commemorate those important watershed moments, those moments of transition. And I don't see why we in particular tend to want to deny ourselves those kinds of moments. You know, even here in the Caribbean, we were told for many years that it was not a good idea for us to commemorate emancipation. We're not still enslaved, but we still commemorate emancipation. And so I don't know why we would deny ourselves the opportunity to reflect on such an important period that shaped Africa so profoundly and that continues to shape Africa today. So I think that is the crux of my contention there. But I think
I respect your views, but I remain open on that because we can't compare the Jewish situation with the entire continent of Africa. I don't think it's a good analogy to make. And also, a lot of that Jewish celebration is built into mythology and all of that, which we should not take the time to go into now. It'll take too much time to put into proper perspective. But it's a completely different thing. So I would not compare what the Jews celebrate with what the entire continent of 54 nations want to celebrate. I wouldn't do that.
We wouldn't pursue this any further for now, but it's important for the listeners to know that there are different perspectives and there are two competing narratives in terms of how the day is presented. But we look forward to these events, Kadija.
Maybe we should have a little session on that, a little 10, 15-minute opportunity to explore some of the ideas that give rise to the different positions.
Yeah, perhaps on another day or maybe in Indaba over time. But yes. Now we move on. Kadija, if you want to just quickly remind people of the key dates before you go.
Okay, so we have the orientation for the regional spoken word competition happening on May the 2nd at Emancipation House. That's 5 Bergerac Road, Maraval. If you have not registered us yet, there's still time to do so. We'll put it on our Facebook page. Just click on the link and you can register. If you still need additional information, you are free to WhatsApp or call 292-7288. Following that, we have the launch of the Pan-African Festival happening on May the 25th. Stay tuned for that venue. And on June the 1st, Iwa Africa 25.
Okay, so we got a lot to look forward to as we proceed towards the grand Pan-African celebration or commemoration of emancipation 2025. Thank you, Kadija. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now over to you, Dr. Fergus. I understand that you have a special guest this evening to talk about the Afro project.
Yes, this is the Afro project. Of course, Afro means African Heritage Agricultural Center. And we have, of course, no less a person than Dr. Shabaka Kambon, who is spearheading this project. Dr. Kambon is no stranger, not only in terms of a guest, but also a host of this program, and at one time an anchor of the program. So Dr. Kambon is the director with on the board of the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. Unfortunately, Dr. Kambon, every time you have a big event on this Afro, I'm out of state. So
Yes,
bring us
yes.
up to date. I myself would be learning a lot because I was not there at the last occasion. So tell us a bit, give us a little background before you engage the last event that took place recently.
Okay. Good evening, Dr. Fergus.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure, my brother, to be joining you here this evening. Okay, so this AFRA project is a youth development using climate smart agriculture project. It is a 15-year project of the Emancipation Support Committee. Sounds strange to people's ears that we would embark on a project. Most projects you hear about are 3 or 4 years, but this is a project that is designed around issues of human transformation. A project that will give young people in what is described as the Yoruba village, that is the historical lands that were called the Yoruba village or Yoruba town, which includes Laventille, Mova, Gonzales, Belmont, sometimes even as far as Barataria, East Port of Spain, Sealots, Beetham, all along that area. So this is a long-term project. It's not expected to have a 1-year kind of result. No, we are looking at a long-term, dig our heels in and provide assistance to young people who are found in what the statistics call or describe as the NEET group. The NEET group are young people between the age of 16 to 24 who are not in education, not in employment, and not in training. And unfortunately, a large proportion of our young people in that area of the country that we describe as the Yoruba village or Yoruba town find themselves in NEET. Actually, the NEET population in that part of the country is the largest, comprises the largest segment of the NEET population found anywhere else. So it is a significant group, and it is that young group that may have fallen through the cracks, did not finish secondary school, may have left secondary school with far less than the 5 passes, which are considered the norm. So the project was launched in January of 2025, even though it's a project we have been working on for, I would say, at least 8 to 10 years in the background of the Emancipation Support Committee. We were seeking land, we were seeking resources to make this a possibility. And eventually, in 2024, we were able to find a lead sponsor, and that is the FC Group of companies that has bought into and said, yes, this is something they would like to support. And so we're quite pleased to have the FC Group of companies on board, providing the kind of financial resources that are necessary to make the initiative work. So that's where we are. Now, in April 4th of this year, we actually held our first, what we called a working group meeting. And when I stood in front of the working group, I said to them, if we were in the UN, this would be called a group expert meeting, because we had about 37 to 39 people in the room, and all of them were experts in their own right, who were either agricultural experts, life skills experts, educators, with many, many years experience, either education at the primary, secondary, tertiary level, and environmental scientists. I mean, you name it, we had them in the room. Why did we bring them in the room? We brought them in the room so they could critique the work that our project had been doing for the last, called it 6 months, but very, very targeted in the last quarter of this year. which was to examine in great detail the needs of this target group, their economic, social, political needs, their environment, to examine that with some degree of seriousness and depth and rigor, I should say, and also examine the kind of skills in agriculture, the climate smart agricultural skills that they could be trained in. Now, we produced a very wide-ranging set of tools that could be used in the training of young people. But this year, we are only embarking on a 10-week training program because we want to test the tools. We want to make sure they really meet the needs of these young people. And then in year 2 and year 3, we will embark in longer term programs with a larger number of the age cohort that we're looking for. Actually, as we are doing the research and churning out the information, it's looking like we might be able to develop 2 segments of training in year 2 for 40, 2 sets of 40 young people. So we will see, but it all depends on how well this goes. So here we are at the end of the first quarter and embarking on the second quarter. In this quarter, in May, we will actually break ground at the site. So we will have a blessing of the ground at the site. The office has been supporting us in getting, and I understand, Dr. Fergus, we have you to thank for this, providing some guidance as to how to find the information about the land that we will now be occupying. We know that every inch of this land that we occupy and call Trinidad and Tobago was either walked upon by the indigenous people, fought over by our own African ancestors in their resistance to the period of enslavement, and then walked upon and worked upon by Indian persons who came here as indentured. So we want to know what is the history of that space that we are now going to occupy, some 20 acres of land that we will occupy as a training center and a production of agricultural crops as well. So we are very grateful for the office, Renee, under Renee's stewardship, and through your guidance, Dr. Fergus, to be able to have that understanding. So when we head out there to break ground on the 6th of May, we will be able to do so with the spirit of our ancestors with us, appropriately so. So that's our plan for the 6th of May. And then between then and October, we will be preparing the land. We will be busy preparing the land for the training facilities. That means building some raised beds for the production of some agricultural crops and preparing a facility where young people can come and be trained. And while we are doing that as well, we will be identifying site visits, sites where the young people can visit to see agriculture in production, some aspect of agriculture, whether it is livestock, whether it is, aquaponics, whether it's hydroponics, whether it's aquaculture. They will be able to visit and see what works and how it's working and what are the challenges, in addition to the training they will receive. We've gotten excellent advice from our expert group meeting, and we are taking that advice on board. People are warning us, make sure that we train at the level that people are at. Don't be so ambitious that we are providing climate smart agriculture way beyond what young people who have not had the basics of agriculture are able to absorb. So we are very mindful that we will have to tailor the information that we have researched and that we have put together to meet the needs of the young people that we will be bringing on board. So you can
let me address the target group itself. You said the age group is 16 to 24. Now it may seem like a neat block there, but I want to separate that into 2 categories. The younger people here would be normally in school,
yes,
either completing their their O levels or doing their A levels. And in the upper age bracket, the upper part of that would be generally, I mean, we're speaking to reality, people who are, in a sense, family beginners. A lot of these people already, maybe starting family and so on, looking for employment. So my question is, what are the incentives for participation? Particularly mindful that these are urban people being asked to re-engage in agriculture. I say re-engage from a historical perspective because they may never have been in the land. But we all came from the land. We all came from some village or something ancestrally. So what are the incentives for participation, considering that you have, different expectations within that age group?
Yes, that's a great question, Doc. And we are working assiduously to identify some of those incentives. There will be, of course, some financial incentives for joining us. But more importantly, we are looking at structuring the training in such a way that learning something new is going to be a value to you. For instance, we have one of the training programs, one of the aspects of the training will be, we call it Art Through Nature. So the young person, when they come up to the countryside with us, they will be able to take tours, guided tours through the forests. Someone will be guiding them to look at the forest with a different eye. What do you see there that can be repurposed as possibly a plant pot? Because the idea would be to find objects from the forest that could be used as plant pots, and then to find plants in the forest, identify those that could be cut or seedlings could be had, and those plant pots, they could plant them in those pots, establish them for growth in those pots, and then decorate those in such a way that they could either have them prepared at the end of the training to either gift or sell in the various pop-up shops and pop-up markets that occur in our communities. So that's the kind of way in which we hope to transfer knowledge, but knowledge that you can use and will give you something at the end of the process. And of course, we will give awards for the most unique designs, for the most creative management of the plants, the best plant managers, and the most diligent workers and so on in keeping and maintaining their plants and so on. So those are some of the kind of ways in which the work that is undertaken during the training will have a result in something that the young people themselves can decide, hey, I like this idea and I'm artistic and I can do this. I can produce 5 or 6 potted plants and I can sell and I can take them to the market. And the idea is to use the discard material from the forest so that you don't have to buy plant pots. You don't have to buy seedlings. You will find them in the forest and you will learn how to use the compost that we're making. That's part of the training, composting. You will be able to prepare the soil, put it in, and have something that you can sell at the end.
Okay, let me ask you a last question, and you can make the closing remarks as well as we wrap up this segment. Reparations is in the air all over. It's so exciting that the globalized reparatory movement is very, very dynamic. And land, of course, has always been one of the issues for people of African descent in the Caribbean, having been denied access to land, even denied the opportunity to purchase land. And here you're focusing on a return to the land. So tell us, what is the reparatory justice value in the project? Is it consciously designed as a reparatory justice project? So take that question and make your final remarks.
That's a tough one. That's a hard, what do they call that? A spin ball that you get in the last minute when you're in front of the wicket. But it's a good question. The truth of the matter is we did not identify it as a reparatory justice project, but it certainly is, because these young people are coming from communities where they have no land deeds. their great grandmothers or great grandfathers were squatters and identified as squatters on those lands, and all they have is the roof over the little house that they built there. They have no land deeds that they can go to the banks and say, well, we need a loan to do X or Y with. And governments across the region have not seen it fit to take our people who have been living in those conditions and provide them, regularize them, and provide them with the land deeds that they deserve so that they can uplift their families. So it's a very, it's a deep issue. This is a deep issue. And what we want to be able to do at the end of the process is at least to have young people who can see life differently. They're going to see choices differently. We hope that that's what we give them. In it, they will have climate smart agricultural skills, but they should, more important for us, is they see their life's fortune, their life's chances much differently when they leave our program than when they came in.
Of course. Thank you very much. Of course, there is also the psychological impact of this project, and they can learn also related to climate change and climate control and all this. Yes, so thank you very much. We hope to have you back after the 6th of May, after that groundbreaking ceremony. So we look forward to having you again. Thank you very much. And of course, we now get to the third segment of this evening's program, and that is a very important topic that we are going to discuss this evening. It's very, very topical. And I hand over to my brother to introduce the segment and to introduce our guest.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Fergus. And now let me invite Sister Kandis Sebro to join us. And of course, Kandis was the translator, among other things, at a significant regional meeting that took place yesterday morning of the Assembly of Caribbean People. And at that meeting, brother by the name of Camille Chalmers from Haiti, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Kandis will correct me if I am wrong. He is from the Advocacy Platform for Alternative Development from Haiti, and of course, and he's a member of the Assembly of Caribbean People, and of course, he presented on the issue of reparatory justice, not just the reparatory justice that is taking place at the level of CARICOM, but specifically that peculiar historical episode related to Haiti, reparatory justice in Haiti, which is quite significantly different to the rest of the region in some peculiar ways. Welcome, Kandis.
Hi, good night, Shabaka. Thank you for having me, and thank you for welcoming me on the show. I am the coordinator amongst the Assembly of Caribbean People. And of course, as you would have mentioned, we had Cami coming out of the Haitian chapter, who would have presented yesterday at our regional press conference. Now, as we all know here, and I hope the listeners know as well, and if you don't know, then I can say it, that tomorrow will be the 17th of April, 2025, which will mark 200 years since Haiti was forced to pay a debt to France. And the original amount was 150 million francs, golden francs at that time. And it has yet been revised, I believe, to about 90 million. And it still stands in terms of the repayment. I think the figure that was quoted by Cami was more than 300% of their annual GDP. So, and even in an attempt to pay that debt, what they had to do, which was a double whammy. So one of the expressions that David Abdullah, who also sits on the Regional Executive Committee of the Assembly, would have said, he would have discussed the double debt because not only was this placed on them after they would have won their independence in 1804, this was imposed upon them. And in addition, in order to pay that debt and to be incorporated into the global society at that time, they had to go to French banks. So that in itself would have put them in an even worse position than they would have been in previously. So that is that was the genesis for that regional press conference. And of course, as Shabaka would have mentioned, tomorrow is of course the actual date that we would have we would be recognizing tomorrow amongst the Assembly of Caribbean people.
Yes, and of course, with such a significant date tomorrow, how are we going to recognize that date? How are we going to, what action are we going to put forward tomorrow? Let's let our listeners in one time before we enter into the conversation about why.
So, well, I personally like to go with the why first because I think people need to know what they're getting involved in, but it's fine. So there are a number of activities that we have launched throughout the Caribbean. The Haitian chapter would have put out a petition that everyone can be a part of. I will share it with Shabaka and and hopefully they can share it with the audience. And it is essentially for reparations for that debt that was imposed upon Haiti. And in addition to that, we will also be having online activity with regards to the genesis of the debt and why it's important to remember this 200 years later, and also to reflect on the situation that Haiti is in today and to assess where they could have been should that reality, should it have been different. So these are some of the things that we would like to put on the floor.
Yeah, so
And of course, yes, and of course,
I'm just going to just to clarify for our listeners, there is a petition that the Assembly of Caribbean people has in its possession that you can sign. How can they sign that petition? These things are usually done electronically, because we're going to have some people in our audience right now who want to sign it right away. Okay, so Rennie would have that petition now, and we're going to ask Rennie to circulate behind the scenes that petition on our Facebook page and on all the other places where people can sign it right away. So there's that petition calling on France to do the right thing and repay Haiti's debt. We're going to talk a little bit more about the issue specific to the Haitian debt in a minute. But there's also another activity that's going to take place tomorrow, correct? In front of the French embassy.
yes, exactly, which is the main call right now throughout the Caribbean, in front of all of the French embassies. There will be manifestations, sit-ins, and protests to demand restitution and reparations for that debt that was done, for that debt that was imposed so many years ago. Now, in Trinidad and Tobago, we will be, of course, in front of our French embassy at 10 a.m., which is the embassy is on 7 Mary Street, Sinclair. And of course, we invite everyone who connects with this activity to join us and to demand those reparations for the people of Haiti.
Okay, so Kandis, let's get right into it. Tell us some of the things that Brother Kami raised yesterday. Some of the revelations that he would have shared with the those people who were in that regional meeting yesterday. Some of the things that stood out to you.
There were a number of things that were highlighted by Kami, as always. He does a lot of analysis. But I think it's very important to note that that figure that would have been 150 million francs at that time. In all of the revision of the debt, etc., it has now, in its final analysis, amounted to about or more than 115 billion in US dollars, based on some of the analyses that were done. So I think that if we were to think in terms of that and think of the fact that not only the basis for that debt that was imposed had to do with the loss to the French economy, which would have been connected to the idea of human beings being objects, right? So that in itself is also something that had to be reassessed in terms of an illegal debt, which is something that we always speak to within the movements in within the Caribbean region here. We talk about, is it an actual debt or an illegal debt?
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second. So, for the benefit of our listeners, what Kandis is raising here is a very important question. Um, you know, the IMA, as Dr. Fergus and others alluded to last week, the way emancipation was conducted was very unjust. In fact, so Hilary Beckles has said that emancipation. He described the Emancipation Act as one of the most unjust laws in the history of mankind, because it acknowledged the right of enslavers to have owned African people as property, and therefore to be due compensation. What happened in Haiti with the Haitian Revolution is that the Haitians skipped the emancipation project. By freeing themselves, they were able to transition from chattel slavery without having to go through the process of emancipation. What the French did at the barrel of a gun was to reimpose that unjust emancipation process on the Haitians, who thought they had escaped it by liberating themselves, and then forcing them, to participate in activity that would pay for their own liberation after they had done so themselves. This is a particularly unjust situation, and perhaps the most extreme need of redress. And I think we've discussed on this program on a number of occasions the fact that during the period of the rule of Jean-Bertrand Aristide, this issue was raised at an international level. I think it was President Jacques Chirac who agreed to look into the matter, and he set up some kind of tribunal to do so. And as history goes, at some point in that tribunal, as the weight of the world's opinion was starting to shift towards this reparatory justice for Haiti, there was a move afoot by France in cahoots with other powerful countries, the triad as they're called, to remove Bertrand Aristide and to replace him with someone who would state that Haiti was no longer interested in pursuing this matter. And so on the ascension to power of it was Latourtou, Kandis, I think his very first act in office was to say, we are no longer interested in, he did exactly what he was required to do, and to state that he was no longer interested in pursuing this matter of historical justice, of transitional justice. And so, in a nutshell, we don't have time to go into all the historical details, but that's what has transpired around this issue. And it is not surprising that every time Haitians have an opportunity to speak on their own accord, that they want to return to the table. They want France to repay this outstanding debt, which of course is a big factor in the impoverishment of Haiti. And of course, we would want to invite Dr. Fergus to rejoin us and to speak to this historical matter. Dr. Fergus, I suppose
thank you. I had a number of questions, but I want first to address program that I received just minutes before the start of the show. I'm now browsing through. There are quite a few pages. I don't know if Kandis is aware of this, but there's it's a colloquium that is to take place in France, in Nantes, which was one of the major ports of slave trading, between May 8th and 11th. That's this next month. It's called International Meeting on the Consciences of Slavery and Restorative Justice. Now, as I scroll down, I know a couple of people there. We have some Caribbean people who are expats in England. Dr. Beckford is one of them. Desiree Baptiste is another one. Beckford is from Jamaica. Baptiste is from multiple places, Trinidad, Grenada, and England. Her father was Dr. Fitzroy Baptiste. And I scroll down and I'm not seeing even one of the sessions addressing Haiti. And no Haitian, apparently, in this gathering, which speaks to restorative justice and condemns the Atlantic slave trade and slavery, but Haiti is not present. I don't know if Kandis, I know you're not seeing it, but do you have any idea why the France would not specially invite Haiti to a session like this?
Well, I feel like tonight there are a lot of provocative little questions, but I think we all know that there are many answers that are being avoided, unfortunately, things that need to be addressed, things that need to be treated face on. And I think that in this discussion on reparations and restitution for Haiti, there's been a lot of silence and an invisibilization, I hope that's a word in English right now, forgive me, it's a little late, of the actual matter in Haiti. Not only amongst Europe, but also amongst the Caribbean countries. One of the main calls that was done yesterday was that CARICOM should get more involved, and not just to, not only in terms of the reparations over the 200 years, but also in terms of the current situation with the intervention that's happening in Haiti at this point, because it was supposed to be a solution to the violence, and to date there has been more violence and there's even more insecurity at this time. So I think that one of the things that we aim to do within the Assembly of Caribbean People, together with other movements in, such as ALBA Movimientos and the International People's Assembly, is we try to ensure that Haiti is kept in the discussion in all the different fora and all of the different events that we have, and that their situation is always analyzed from the perspective of the Haitians that are actually on the ground. And that is something that hasn't necessarily been happening. Shabaka would have mentioned that process where you would have had the United States and France removing the President Aristide when he had this agenda to ensure that there were reparations for this event, and placing persons who were in alignment with their agenda, or at least creating situations in which they can have persons in power within Haiti that were in alignment with their agenda. And this is something that we would have discussed even up to last year, when we would have noted what would have happened previously with the interventions that would have happened in Haiti. So I think that it is very important that we, as Shabaka was alluding to earlier, we respect the memory, and we ensure that it remains at the forefront, and that people further analyze not only what is being presented to them in these major countries and on mainstream media, etc., but to listen to the people on the ground who are actually involved in these things.
Okay, let me ask you a second and final question before Shabaka takes over. Of course, I believe it's in France's interest to keep Haiti unstable, because any negotiation for restitution and reparation must involve the Haitian government. It must, while civil society would be advocating for some kind of action, but it must be the government that ultimately would be negotiating. But I want to shift a little bit to a particular law that was passed by France. I thought that was very, very interesting. In 2001, France passed a law. The law was a law that was a bill that was brought by an African Guyanese woman, French Guyanese woman, named Christiane Taubira, and the law is called the Taubira Law of 2001.
Okay.
And that law states in the very first article, the French Republic acknowledges that the Atlantic slave trade and slavery from the 15th century constitute a crime against humanity. It's the only European country to have legislated so far. Now, what I want to ask is this. Knowing this law exists, could it be a sort of a platform, a sort of an issue that now can be taken up to mobilize around this law, having this law in effect? Could it serve as a sort of incentive to bring more direct legal action to bear on the Haitian reparatory justice case? Because a law exists, and therefore France could be taken to court on the basis of that law. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I do believe that yes, on the basis of that law that was passed by the French themselves and the French courts, they do have a basis for it. And there have been many analyses in terms of the amount, which of course is exorbitant. But I do think that there should be mobilization around it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, over to you, Shabaka.
Yeah, Dr. Fergus. Well, you know, I am of the view that you know, we have to take a more proactive role in these matters in our own spaces before we can really. I mean, while we, I mean, this is not to say before, but while we continue to pressure the former colonial powers to do the right thing around reparatory justice, and I think that the Haitian situation in its has you should be dealt with first. You know, we in the Caribbean have not yet arrived in our development in the development of our independence, where we are properly acknowledging the debt we owe to Haiti and treating with the Haitian heroes who liberated Haiti and launched that century of which saw the end of chattel slavery. Launched the processes in the 19th century, which saw the end of chattel slavery. So we owe a debt to Haiti, both in terms of how we represent the past symbolically, and in terms of how we treat with them, going forward. And we haven't been able to do so yet, while we continue to honor and celebrate the perpetrators of the crimes of enslavement all around us in the capital cities across the Caribbean. So you don't have any monuments to people like Toussaint Louverture, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Henri Christophe, and we could go on and name so many other leaders of the Haitian Revolution, who I've seen honored in other countries. I've been to Ecuador and in Quito. I've been to other places where there are prominent memorials to the people who gave us freedom, who fought and launched that century of freedom. But in the Caribbean,
yeah, but Shabaka, those are two different issues. Our debt to Haiti is different from the debt that France owes Haiti. One is extortion, a ransom demanded of Haiti, in addition to reparation for the enslavement and the slave trading of Africans to Haiti.
Yeah,
There
so
are
I think
two different issues. Yeah, but there are two different issues, and
yeah,
this year is particularly significant for restitution and reparation because it's the 200th anniversary. This month is the 200th anniversary.
yeah, and that's
So
why I'm
our
excited to come out tomorrow
yeah,
morning.
but I am seeing it's deflecting from the main issue, which is the debt that France owes to Haiti. We owe a debt to Haiti because of what Haiti did for the Caribbean, for humanity on a whole. But that's a different thing to what France owes to Haiti. I think this is where we need a mobilization to ensure that France begins to talk about how it's going to make amends for the crime that they committed, multiple crimes, because ransom is a particular crime in itself besides just the crime of slavery. The
Yeah,
ransom is another crime.
Yeah, Dr. Fergus, one of the greatest weapons in the hands of those who want to maintain Haiti in the situation that is in is our complicity in a sense. I mean, there are specific instances of our complicity, but also our ignoring of the situation. When I say our, I mean the rest of the Caribbean, in particular CARICOM. The way that we ignore the crimes that are ongoing against the Haitian people from foreign forces is a factor that that underpins the continued weakness of the country internationally. The country is now a part of CARICOM. It is a member of CARICOM. But if you listen to the experts, you will uniformly they will say to you that Haiti is not usually treated the way that it should be within the regional framework, within the regional body.
Okay, so let's bring back Kandis in the conversation. Now, the fourth session in New York, the fourth session of the Permanent Forum for People of African Descent is still taking place. I think tomorrow is the last day. And there was a lot of solidarity by many different countries expressed for Haiti and the situation there, the current situation, the political situation, the historical situation, and in terms of reparation. I don't know if you were listening. If you were, do you have any views on what was expressed, the solidarity that was expressed? Because here you have, that's the international voice, something I think Shabaka is also referring to.
Well, absolutely. There's a lot of focus on Haiti right now. As we would have mentioned, the situation in terms of the current insecurity within Haiti. And of course, right now we are addressing that 200 year of that illegal and death that was violent, for want of a better word. So that is definitely something that is happening right now. And we have been trying to actively mobilize the many different areas where Haiti has been placed on the forefront of solidarity. But one of the things that we've been actively trying to do is to bring people beyond oral or spoken solidarity into actively trying to do actions that will actually provoke a more meaningful change right now. So again, I will reiterate the petition that we do have, but of course, it's also important for persons to come out and to increase the pressure on France as well to demand those reparations for the people of Haiti at this time. And there are clear plans within Haiti in terms of how they can actually address that once it is actually received. So yes, I do think that there's so many bases that they could use in terms of how they do address it. But one of the most critical things for us is to ensure that the Haitian voice is actually heard and that they are maintained within that as a central point within that discussion as to how things would advance. The government, yes, has to be there, but as I would have mentioned earlier, in terms of the alignment of the government, there should be persons who are there serving the interests of the people and not necessarily those of the interests of those outside. So I think that that is a major challenge that they do have amongst the Haitian movements at this point. They do not have any strong confidence in the governments that are put before them many of the times. And a lot of this is coordinated with external factors involved. So that is also something that we were addressing through the Assembly of Caribbean People.
Just for the benefit of our listeners, that debt that we talk about tonight on tonight's program, the payments for it went on right up until 1947. Incredible. I mean, when I first heard that date as a young man, it just blew my mind to think that an injustice like that could go on until 1947. The only thing I could think about in recent times that has, that shook me in that way was to learn that the descendants of those who were enslaved here in the English-speaking Caribbean, who would have migrated to the UK, those with the Windrush generation and their descendants would have been paying reparations, compensation to the former enslavers, or helping to repay the debt that the British government incurred in paying compensation to former slave owners with their taxes. And so there is a tendency, and of course, Dr. Beckles revealed recently that the period that we call apprenticeship was also was a period in which we would have worked to provide some of the funds, a considerable amount of the money that they felt was due to the enslavers here in the British Caribbean, at the end at emancipation. And so this trend to have the formerly enslaved pay, for their freedom is a huge thing that has come up in the region lately, and it's something that we would do well to support Haiti in securing at this time. So we look forward tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. in front of the French embassy, where we will hand over a document. Kandis, that document is called, what is that entitled?
Well, it is the Assembly of Caribbean People's Declaration on the situation on Haiti,
Is that document
where we demanding reparations on the. Sorry?
I understand the document was penned by the Haitians. Is it in English? Do we have it in English?
Yes.
Okay.
It will
okay,
be
so
made available in English, but at this time, it isn't currently in English. But it will be shared. It will be shared tomorrow, with, of course, with all the media houses, etc., in English, etc. So, and we will be delivering the letter, the declaration from the Assembly of Caribbean People.
Yes. So those of you who wish to support this noble call, we want to invite you to come down tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. in front of the French embassy in St. Clair to join the Assembly of Caribbean People in turning over this historic request, certain that this justice must be done soon as possible, certain that this will happen, certain that we will see justice for the people of Haiti. So, Kandis, is there anything else you'd like to share with us with regards to this thing? I mean, in terms of the actual declaration, I know you could read it in French. You could read it probably in the Creole as well. But is there anything in that declaration you'd like to share with our listeners tonight?
Well, I would definitely encourage the listeners to pay attention to what we're doing. The Assembly of Caribbean People, Trinidad and Tobago, is available on Facebook, and we will be delving further into the Haitian matter. It's difficult for me. I mean, maybe David and Dr. Fergus could do it a lot easier to sum up the depth of the injustice that was done to the Haitian people and the violence that they continue to undergo to this date. And there's so many different elements of it that we have to look at. I mean, Dr. Fergus spoke about the legal perspective. There's also the historical perspective when he spoke about the not only the perspective of the liberation, but also the whole concept of slavery. And there's also what would have been happening from 1804 to 1825 with the attempt to exclude Haiti in their just cause of leading their own lives in their own land. And of course, the importance that the island, Saint-Domingue, would have had for the entire global economy at that time. So, I mean, there are so many analysis, and I suppose from a Pan-Africanist perspective, it could be done from on the basis simply of race, of course. I'm saying simply, but from that perspective. So there's so many different layers to what would have been happening to the Haitian people over these years, and it's still affecting them to date. And Cami likes to talk about utopia to dystopia, from this joy that they were trying to create at one point in time, and how it slowly spiraled into fully sorry but it just a shift from something that was supposed to be inspirational. And I'm saying supposed to be, but it was inspirational, not only to African people, but also to Latin American. These are things that Cami would have mentioned yesterday. So it's difficult for me to sum that all up in about 15 minutes. But please join us. Sign the petition. Also pay attention to what we have been doing. Those of you who are able to look at the actual press, the regional press conference, you can look at it at our Facebook site. And of course, the declaration will be made available, and we will be delving further into the illegality of the debt, the unjust element of the debt, and what that means, not only from a historical perspective, but what it also means today. So please pay attention, because tomorrow is that momentous occasion. It is that date, but there's so much more that's happening behind it, and we need to not forget. We need to keep the memory alive so that we understand not only where we're coming from, but even where we are today.
Yeah, so we have a few minutes left. One of the things that you raised in your discussion was the question of them having to borrow from the French banks. And I don't know if Dr. Fergus wants to weigh in on this. But
no, I was going to ask the exact same question, so go ahead, because a lot of the money was borrowed from French banks to pay the French with interest. They also would have borrowed from America as well, leading to American justification. I think they borrowed from the Germans as well. The Germans wanted to invade them. The Americans decided, they're going to invade first. And squeeze the French customs every last cent that they could to ensure that they pay the money. So that period when the most of the money was repaid was actually during American occupation, when America had controlled Haitian finances. So that they are also complicit. Of course, they were complicit from the very beginning. Remember the Monroe Doctrine, 1822, where they deliberately excluded Haiti from protection. And they did not recognize Haiti until 1865, somewhere around there. So even though France would have recognized Haiti shortly after the ransom started paying, America decided they weren't going to do it. So America is very, very much complicit, and we know they're still involved in undermining Haitian sovereignty and stability. So that's a factor as well. Huh?
Yeah, the late Dr. Paul Farmer, who wrote a book called The Uses of Haiti. In that book, he mentions the fact that the recognition of Haiti, and America and Haiti are the two oldest republics in the Americas, and they should have been, the United States of America should have been theoretically happy to see another republic, another space in the hemisphere free from European colonization, somebody they would have automatic kinship with. But they only recognized Haiti so late on in the 1860s, I think it was 1862, because they wanted to find new places to send the formerly enslaved to. They wanted to, now that they had, they were just about to free to end slavery in the United States of America. They wanted
Well,
to
the
have
South, the South. We have to be careful because the declaration, the first declaration, was really a military expedient to destabilize the South. So it was mainly Africans in the South that the Emancipation Act would have emancipated, right? And it is only after that. But the point you're making is very good, because it was only after that that they recognized Haiti.
correct.
Interestingly.
And it's at the same time that they also recognized Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone and Haiti were recognized at around the exact same time because of the purpose of, because they served the interests of the United States at that time to be able to get rid of their black populations. Very, very fascinating history when it comes
Let
to
me just make one comment on the flyer the program that I just referred to. Another interesting thing about it is that they seem to be on a celebratory path, celebrating 1848, when France abolished slavery across the empire, forgetting that the largest block of enslaved Africans emancipated themselves in 1803 at the end of the war, when France inflicted the final defeat on Napoleon's forces in December 1803. They are not celebrating that. They're not celebrating the birth of the Republic, 1804. They're celebrating 1848 because it gives them the opportunity to engage in falsifying the history of the emancipation movements in the Caribbean, particularly within the French Empire. The biggest part of the French Empire was Haiti, in terms of the wealth generated and the number of enslaved people, the number of lives lost. Over 100,000 Haitians lost their lives fighting for freedom. It's something we really need to celebrate. I agree with you on that, Shabaka. We need to recognize the debt we owe to Haiti. But as I said, the ransom paid and reparations are different issues.
Yeah, and I think I just to add before we close off tonight that France is particularly, peculiarly interesting in the depths that it goes to try to falsify its past in certain, when it comes to the that period of colonialism. You go to Martinique, and I think you have a unique situation where it's the only place I can think of in the Caribbean where an abolitionist is celebrated so widely. So we know in the English-speaking Caribbean, we have the Wilberforces and this and that. None of those European abolitionists that they teach us about in our textbooks are celebrated anywhere in this part of the empire. So none of the colonial authorities felt it was important to put a Wilberforce statue or Clarkston Street anywhere in the English-speaking Caribbean. But you have that interesting phenomenon taking place in.
So you do have villages named after Wilberforce and Buxton and these guys,
Oh yeah, that's great to know.
You go to Ghana, you have Buxton village. They celebrate these guys. They may not have put up statues for them, but they celebrate them.
That is very interesting to know. This was just an observation I was making here now. This is because what I found.
Yes, you have Wilberforce Town, Wilberforce Village, Buxton Village, all this thing.
Yeah, you have
all over the place.
You have a similar thing. You have a Shropshire library, a Shropshire community, Shropshire street, and several Shropshire statues, or you had in Martinique up until about 2020 or so. Because the issue with that is that in Martinique you had a freedom fighter who the Martinicans credit with their own liberation, their own for fighting for and creating the conditions under which they freed themselves. They see themselves as the people who freed themselves under the leadership of this particular freedom fighter. And they feel that France has now imposed Shropshire on them as part of an effort to make them grateful to France for their liberation instead of grateful to their own agency. So it's a very interesting conversation that's taking place in Martinique. I thought I would share that, but it's good to know. I'm going to have to find out more about these villages and communities named after the abolitionists. Where did you see these, Dr. Fergus? Here in Trinidad?
I don't know of any in Trinidad, but I know in Jamaica, in Guyana, one of the earliest villages was actually named after Buxton. In Guyana, actually a free village was named after Buxton. So you do have them. I can give you some names that I know about. I can tell you those, but I don't know of any in Trinidad. I wouldn't doubt that there might have been, but I don't know of any in Trinidad.
I would be curious to know if those villages were named by the people who populated the villages, or if they were imposed by the authorities. That I would be curious about that.
Remember, the missionaries might have had an influence over some of these things as well. Huh? So, I'll find out for you.
Yes, interesting questions. But Kandis, once again,
and don't forget how emancipation was marketed to these people as the work of these abolitionists. So it would not surprise me that some of them may have built a village and named it after one of these guys. It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is that the enslavers in the Caribbean were not fond of the abolitionists or anybody who spoke out against their evil institution, which made them rich. And so, which is why I find it so curious that you have the authorities taking such pains to highlight the work of the abolitionists in Martinique. But that's another conversation for another day. Kandis, we want to thank you for coming to join us tonight on Indaba, and we want to thank the Assembly for the work that it's doing with regard to this subject matter, highlighting this injustice and rightfully using this anniversary to call for reparatory justice. And of course, the Emancipation Support Committee will be joining you tomorrow morning to hand that letter over to the French authorities. And we hope that that activity continues across. I hope we see that activity replicated right across the region tomorrow. And we know that our brothers and sisters in New York, the Permanent Forum, will be addressing the matter. And we hope that it picks up speed from here, and that in our lifetimes we could be celebrating, a just outcome in this case. Thank you very much, Kandis. Thank you, Dr. Fergus.
And thank you.
Okay, I want to wish our listeners a special good night and to invite them to join us again next week, Wednesday, for another edition of Indaba, the place where knowledge grows, the place to find consensus, the voice of the people, the voice of the Emancipation Support Committee. And let me just thank Brother Corey Gilks, who sent us a message tonight. I'm going to read his message quickly. It's a 1-sentence, a 2-sentence here. He says, the self-emancipation of the Haitians accelerated our emancipation, which of course we acknowledge tonight on tonight's program. And he says the ongoing punishment of Haiti is because of the deep fear that their examples will still spread to other subjugated countries. This needs to be taught because there's a level of disrespect that extends all the way to CARICOM. Understood, Corey. Thank you for your contribution. Good night, all.